Welcome to the Marketing Mixtape podcast, hosted by me, Brittany Winfield of the Winfield Creative. If you have a burning marketing question, submit it at speakpipe.com/marketingmixtape, and we'd love to get it answered on a future episode. And don't forget to like and subscribe, baby! And if you're really feeling like it, leave us a review, so that way we can find more listeners just like you. But for now, sit tight, because now it's time for the Marketing Mixtape podcast. Let's go! Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Marketing Mixtape podcast. My name is Brittany Winfield. I'm the owner of the Winfield Creative and your go-to social media manager and mentor for women-owned businesses. Today's episode is one surrounding hashtags, because hashtags, I've come to learn from my real-life conversations with women-owned business owners that hashtags might not work in the way that you think that they do, because there has been a lot of disconnect about the education regarding hashtags. So I wanted to make it a point to have an entire episode dedicated to hashtags to teach you exactly how they work, what they are, and ways to effectively use them in your marketing plan in your social media account, so that way you're not wasting your time, not wasting your effort, and you're choosing the right ones when you choose to use hashtags. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of myths related to hashtags, and it became apparent when last week I was invited to a women-owned business networking group in the Mad River Valley in Vermont. And it was me and a bunch of business owners that are incredible, and they are running their own social media accounts. And somebody had asked a question about, I have been using hashtags. How do I know what hashtags to use? And when I told everybody in the room exactly what a hashtag is, the jaws that dropped to the floor, I wish I took a picture of, because that's what I would use as the cover photo of all my busting myths related to hashtag promotions moving forward. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background as to the inspiration behind this episode, because there is a lot of miseducation around what a hashtag is, why it came onto the scene, and we're going to be talking about, again, like how to effectively use them, because it is a good opportunity to organize your content with hashtags and to use them for, giveaways and events. But hashtags, believe it or not, do not get you more reach. They don't get you more eyes on your content. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this episode. So what is a hashtag exactly? In the most basic way, without getting super techie, a hashtag is essentially a shortened version of a URL. That's all it is. So when you are posting on a social media platform, let's use Instagram, for example, when you make an Instagram post, essentially it's a public post. It creates a public website for that post. So every post that you have, every post that exists on Instagram has a unique URL, website link, essentially. That's what that means, attached to it. So in theory, if you were to plug in the URL instagram.com/ a bunch of random letters and numbers, it would land you to a specific content post. So hold that in your mind. URL equals post. Now, what happens if you have a bunch of posts that have relevant content that it's talking about? Instagram decided to develop a way to organize these posts by content topic, where users can essentially, people that are creating the content, can use a hashtag to then organize that post into a specific URL that other people are using the same hashtag. Everything lands in that content bucket. And the way I like to describe it to my clients is, imagine you have a piggy bank. Okay. You're putting coins of matching identities in this piggy bank. The coins that you are putting in, as long as the hashtags specifically match. So let's say you're putting hashtag nickels, for example, like a nickel versus a dime, You are using this hashtag nickels. And if somebody, person number 2, also uses that exact same hashtag nickels, with the S, the plural, exactly matching, it will land in the same piggy bank. However, if person number 2 said hashtag nickel, just singular, it will put that content into a separate piggy bank. Each piggy bank has its own separate identity. And that's what a hashtag bank is. So, hashtag banks are great for finding inspiration. It's great for having a landing spot to organize content. But what it does not do, it does not magically push your content to somebody's newsfeed. It does not necessarily indirectly optimize your profile. But how you can indirectly find new reach for your posts is if somebody's using that hashtag to find inspiration. So, as a social media manager, sometimes I go and I use the hashtag post inspiration or trending audios to find what I need, to find what I'm looking for as far as inspiration goes for content. If you are a hairdresser, for example, you might look up hashtag styling ideas or hashtag hair inspo to find new ideas for content, or to find out what people in your industry are talking about. How you can use it on your own posts is several ways. So let's say that you are going to an event or you're hosting an event like a conference. You can use that hashtag, and there's 7 different categories of hashtags out there, event hashtags being one of them. So it's a great way for event attendees to use one specific hashtag. So if you are hosting an event, you basically prompt people to use a branded hashtag. And then you, as the organizer, can go into that hashtag bank and find all of the user generated content. So, all the content that other people took on your behalf to share it on your social media profile. So, that's a great way to use hashtags effectively, is if other people are taking content on your behalf, is to train the human brains to use a branded hashtag. So that way you can use it as a collection bank for user generated content. The second way to use it, actually third, if you're considering your own content inspiration as number 1, number 2 being that event, bringing up user generated content. Number 3 way to use it is for giveaways. So you can incorporate it as a way to host a giveaway, and that could be one of the prompts. So that way you have an area, again, to look for the content that they are posting in one specific spot instead of getting all of these notifications that people have been tagging your account and all this stuff. So that's just a different way of using hashtags, is for giveaways. And, hashtags, they tend to get this reputation that, if you use a specific hashtag, if you use 30 hashtags related to your industry, it's going to magically push your posts out to people that might be looking up keywords relating to those hashtags. But that's just not how it works. So technically, you are spreading your post out between content banks, but unless somebody is following a specific hashtag, which you can follow specific hashtags. So that is the only way it would land, though, in their newsfeed. So busting those myths has been really important to me. And those are 3 different ways that you can actually use hashtags more effectively in your social media game plan. And when we come back, I'm going to teach you how to look up hashtags so that way you are doing it effectively and not using just 3 very random or 30 very random hashtags in your content plan. So, when you're thinking about actually using hashtags, you want to make them as effective as possible. That's why I always recommend not using all 30 that you could possibly use, but instead think about, okay, who is this content made for? That's why it's super important to have the question, who is my target audience, answered before really creating any content plan, but especially when incorporating hashtags, is okay, Who are the people that you are looking to reach with this hashtag that you're using? What is their pain points? What are some of the challenges that they are dealing with? What would be some of the answers that, or the questions that they are asking to receive answers online? And then how can you choose a sizable hashtag that's not too small, but also not too big? And here's how you do it. When you are on Instagram, I want you to look up certain hashtags that you have been using and brainstorming some that fit into some of those categories, like, who your target audience is and what their challenges might be. So that way you have a hashtag bank in your notes app that would work based on the content that you are posting. And so when you're on Instagram's either app or desktop, I want you to use that search bar to actually type in, the hashtag button, and then look up different hashtags that you could use. And when you click into a hashtag bank, you'll see at the top that there's a certain amount of posts that people have used that hashtag under. What you want to aim for now, I use this with caution. If you are a Vermont business right now and you rely on more foot traffic, so you're going to be using Vermont based posts, geographic posts, put a pin in this, but we will talk about more geographic specific hashtags after I explain more general ones. So put a pin in that. But generally, you want to look for medium to large size hashtag banks. You don't want anything too small, because that means that people are not using that hashtag bank. So people are not using it for inspiration. There's not a lot in there. It's not a very searched hashtag bank. But you also don't want ones that are like in the millions, over a million, because once somebody refreshes their page, your post is basically going to disappear in a sea of posts. So we really want like a medium sized to a large sized content bank, and using those hashtags so that way your posts, if somebody goes in there to find inspiration and to find a business like yours, that yours is findable. It's not going to get lost, but it's also in a content bank that already has an advantage and is being actively searched for. So that being said, how do you quantify what's a medium to large size one? Generally, not including geographic ones for states as small as Vermont, generally, you want to find a hashtag that has over 100K, so 100,000 posts in it, but not more than a million. I would say if you are a geographic based business, so Vermonters, listen up. How I find hashtags that are more geographic specific, and I'm just using Vermont as the example because that's where I live, but to find those hashtags, I always go to really big profiles of businesses in that state. So in Vermont, love Vermont, the Chamber of Commerce, Hello Burlington, more especially like tourism based profiles. And I go to their posts that they have used hashtags. And that's how I find hashtags to use that are specific to the geographic location. So Vermont, for example, hashtag shop local VT. I probably would have never found that unless Love Burlington used that last year on, Small Business Saturday. So that's one way where you can find hashtags that are from your geographic location. So Vermonters, if you're listening, hashtag Vermont Living, hashtag Vermont by Vermonters, hashtag shop local VT. Those are all great ones to use because they are popular within our state. So you might see that they'll definitely have under 100K, but they don't have just like 12 posts. So you want to make sure that if you are relying more on a geographic based hashtag, that you are finding the right ones that are being used in your state. So again, looking at bigger profiles, especially tourism based ones, they usually use geographic specific hashtags that are more popular. And I would say, if you had to quantify more than 500 posts, and I'm not even going to put a maximum on that because chances are, unless you live in like Los Angeles or something like super huge of a city, hashtag New York City, you're not going to have over a million posts. So that's the caveat for folks who live in smaller states. And I would even say, I use states just because Vermont is a small state, But if you needed to get even more specific within your geographic location, so hashtag DMV for folks who live in the DC area, that's a great like smaller geographic location based one. By county, Sarasota County, I'm just using these as examples, but like you want to look at if you are a business that relies more on foot traffic, so retail stores, shops that you cannot provide services online. So, any businesses that have a specific delivery location, for example, you don't want to use hashtags that are that are not within your geographic space, unless you are looking to specifically target people outside of your zone. So, yeah, that's how you find hashtags. So, moving forward, when you decide to use hashtags, just keep in mind you don't have to add all 30 of them. I actually do not recommend it because then you're going to spend more time contemplating which hashtags to use when it's actually more important to use keywords, which we will get to in a separate episode, keywords in your captions to optimize your profiles and your posts. So when we're thinking about hashtags, keep in mind they may not work the way you think they do. They're good for organization. They're good for creating structure on a platform that has millions and bajillions of posts going out the door every second of the day. And they can be used effectively for especially geographic based businesses. They could be used for finding inspiration. They could be used for really organizing your social media content, whether it be for giveaways or for collecting user generated content. So they can be used effectively. And I do recommend using hashtags on your posts, but maybe making them a little bit more targeted and using less of them. So that way we are using them intentionally and with purpose. This has been another episode of the Marketing Mixtape podcast, and I am so grateful that you tuned in today. If you have any other questions regarding social media, I would love it if you could submit them at speakpipe.com/marketingmixtape, and we'd be happy to answer them on a future episode. Until next time, Brittany Winfield signing off. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Marketing Mixtape podcast brought to you by the Winfield Creative. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you could like and subscribe and leave a review and do all the things so that way we can find more people just like you. And if you still have burning marketing questions that you want answered, be sure to submit them now at speakpipe.com/marketingmixtape. Until next time, this is Brittany Winfield with the Winfield Creative, signing off.